All right, let's do a little roll call. Who we got in here? How you guys doing? How's your day? What are you most looking forward to doing after this test is over? There's a good question. Study for Spanish. Ugh, that's brutal. Yeah, sleep is fair. Okay, so plan for today is to look at LEQs, but I want to give you guys some options too, because there aren't too many of you guys here. So out of curiosity, which is the section of the exam? Multiple choice, short answer, LEQ or DBQ that you feel least strong with? Because I can pull up multiple choice questions. We can answer those together. That's one option. Another option would be to look at example essays of any of the stuff, short answers, LEQs, DBQs, whatever. So I just want to give you guys a choice here. So if there's a section of the test that you're like, oh, please help me with this. This is the one I feel the worst about. You can make some requests right now so that I don't waste your time. Multiple choice. I actually haven't done multiple choice with you guys in a little while. So I think multiple choice would be solid, especially for this time period. Let me just make this a little bit lighter. There we go. Okay. All right, let's do multiple choice. All right, so I'm going to pop out my chat. I'm going to open up. We're going to go into, what's it called? Albert. And then we'll do some questions together. This will be good. This will be fun. Sorry, I have 1 million tabs open, so this is going to take me a minute to just get this set up. Here we go. Share. Okay. All right, so all right, so let's go to Albert. Let's do period 7, multiple choice. You know what I just realized is that I definitely told you I was going to be doing period 8 and 9 tonight, didn't I? What was I thinking? Shoot, that was a huge mistake on my part. All right, whatever. We'll do multiple choice for period 7, and then I'll do period 8 and 9 for you tomorrow. Okay, I'll just do like a bonus session or something. So my bad on definitely dropping the ball on that. I should have been prepared for periods 8 and 9, and I was not. Okay, so let me just log in. Come on, Albert. Okay. Okay. Period 7. Yeah, this will be okay. It'll be all right in the end. So, period 7. Let's go through some stuff. Let's do some World War I stuff. Will it just let me do this? All right. Okay. Sorry. This is being really weird. Okay, you guys. So let's do this stuff together. Let's just do some questions together. So these ones are kind of easy. You want me to challenge you with harder ones? We'll start slow and then we'll get harder. Okay. So this is Washington's farewell address and Woodrow Wilson. So we've got Pilgrim landing in America, 1919. Here's the draft of League of Nations. This is George Washington, Republican hostiles. Jeez, brutal for the draft of the League of Nations. Okay, so let's look at this, and then I want you guys to answer it. I want you to send what answer you think is correct. Woodrow Wilson was accused of violating which of the following long-standing principles of American foreign policy? The United States should pursue an aggressive policy towards Native Americans. Presidents should not run for a third term. The United States should not be overly involved in international affairs, and the two-party system. Yeah, you guys are killing it. Yeah, this one's kind of easy. C, right? So Wilson, the whole thing is that Washington's inaugural address says stay out of it, and he's not. That's not what the League of Nations does. So C is correct. Good job. Good job. Next, so based on the same thing, which of the following was the most significant Republican leader of the opposition? So who opposed him the most? Roosevelt, Hoover, Lodge, Nixon. So for this one, you just have to kind of know who it was. Yep, you guys are correct. Henry Cabot Lodge, who I think was from Massachusetts, is your person. So he's the leader of the Republicans in the Senate at the time and would have been the strongest opponent of the League of Nations. And then there's one more here. Which of the following was a Republican critique of the Treaty of Versailles and the League of Nations? So basically, why did the Republicans not like it? It weakened the role of the U.S. Senate and ended the war against Germany on unfavorable terms from the U.S. It would have decreased the United States' role in world affairs. It would have resulted in the United States obtaining more colonies overseas. Yeah, you guys are getting these right. Yeah, these are easy, right? You guys are like better than these ones. Good job. Oh, awkward. Everyone said C. I agreed with you, and look what just happened. All right, Jasper, we just got one wrong together, so our bad. So let's go through this for a second. Let's figure out why we were wrong. I really thought that was right. So choice A is correct because there was widespread support. Let's see. The Republicans had reservations about the specific treaty. Many of these reservationists were against signing it for political reasons because of Article 10. Okay, that's good. That's a good evidence piece to know. The Article 10 was the biggest thing. That if the problem is if any member of the League of Nations is attacked, every nation has to go to war. And that's what people have problems with. But oh, you know what? None of us, I don't think we really read this because this says decrease the United States' role in world affairs, which isn't true. It would have increased it. So good job, you guys. So this answer is A because they don't want to have to get involved in the war if they don't have to. Make sense? You guys still here? Read carefully 4 or 5. Seriously. Man, I did not read carefully. Nobody did in this one. All right, let's scroll around. Let's find some harder ones. Let's try to trip you guys up a little bit. You're too good for the ones that are here. All right, let's do this one. Yeah. All right, here is the Kellogg-Briand Pact. So we can kind of skim through this. So the Kellogg-Briand Pact, so what is it? You guys remember what it is? Kellogg-Briand Pact? So we've got agreement to end peace between nations. So, oh yeah, this is the one where they basically were like, we're never going to resort to war ever again. That's this one, yeah. The done at Paris, 1928. Duty of the government to. All right. So the purpose of the Kellogg-Briand Pact was to build alliances in the face of the growing threat of fascism, force foreign nations to back to a position of isolationism, avoid the outbreak of another world war, clarify provisions of the League of Nations. So which one is it? C, 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 C. All right, C works for me. Should I trust you guys this time? Boom. Good job. All right. Yeah, the purpose of it was to avoid another war because they definitely see one coming. But obviously it doesn't work. So C. Okay, it says this question is difficult. The Kellogg-Briand Pact is similar to the diplomatic goal of which pre-World War I agreement? Treaty of Portsmouth, Teller Amendment, Platt Amendment, or Open Door Policy? What you got? CC. So we're going with Platt. Yeah, right. This kind of question is just like, it just makes you go crazy because it's like you work so hard, you study so hard, and then they ask you a question that's so specific. All right, so you guys are going with C. B, because I don't know what it is. Wait. I'm honestly not sure. Well, D is about open door policy. I think is more about Japan, China. I think it's China. I don't know what the Teller Amendment or Treaty of Portsmouth is. Does anyone know what the Platt Amendment is? So Jasper, so what is it? Platt is Cuba. Oh, okay. Well, good to know. So the rest of you are going with sent gunboats to Cuba to collect debt. All right. So I think that D is China. I think that G is China. All right. How do we feel about going with B? Since we're kind of all over the place on this one. Japan. Open door. I knew it was like, all right, let's learn. Okay. So let's just. A. Good guess. Who got that right? Essie got it right. Yeah, I don't know. President Roosevelt acted as an intermediary between Russia and Japan during the Russo-Japanese War. Roosevelt was able to get both nations to agree to a peace treaty signed in Portsmouth, Maine, for which he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. Both the Kellogg-Briand Pact and the Treaty of Portsmouth were focused on achieving peace. This is a brutal question. Okay, so the Teller Amendment is about the war against Spain in 1898 that was about Cuba. Okay. So it looks like both Teller and Platt were about Cuba. Open door policy is China. So you've got opening the door to China. Brutal, y'all. That's a tough one. All right, let's go back to all the questions that are possible, and let's pick another topic. What the heck? Hang on. Having some trouble here. Okay, so all right, let's look at World War II. Why is this being so stupid? It thinks that I'm a teacher. It won't just let me answer the questions. Oh, I just clicked assign all. Oh my God, you guys, I'm sorry. This is like not a good day. World War II, here we go. Okay. All right, let's look at World War II questions. Similar cases. Ooh, this one's good. Okay, Korematsu versus the United States. All right, so remember that Korematsu versus the U.S. is about whether or not Japanese internment was constitutional, and was argued that it was. That internment was okay, especially during war. So, in which of the following Supreme Court cases were both the circumstances and the majority opinion of the court similar? What the heck? Okay, so basically you have to know which of the following court cases is similar to Korematsu. So you kind of have to know about each one. Bach versus UC Regents, Brown v. Board, Schneck versus US, Dred Scott versus Sanford. So which of them is similar to this court case. So if we just kind of go back up and we read this, we have, when under the conditions of modern warfare, our shores are threatened by hostile forces. The power to protect must be commensurate with the threatened danger. So that's where it's affirmed. So I actually disagree with you guys. You guys are saying D. I would guess C. I don't know. That's just my thing, but I'll agree with you. I'll give you a shot. Oh, ooh, I would have been right. Okay, so let's go through them. All right, so let's talk about these court cases. So Schneck versus United States, that's C. This is where they basically made the Sedition and Espionage Act in World War I constitutional. So it meant that you could restrict free speech if it presented a clear and present danger, that you didn't have the rights to just say whatever you wanted. That is the Schneck versus U.S. The Bach case is about due process, and this case is about affirmative action. Brown v. Board is school desegregation, and then Dred Scott is ruling that slaves have no equal protection under the law. So, I mean, do you need to know all these Supreme Court cases? I think these ones are worth knowing. There's a few that you should know. This is kind of interesting because both are talking about like restricting the rights of citizens. So that's kind of an interesting case there. Let's go next. All right, so the decision shows continuity with. So which of these events is similar to Japanese internment, essentially? This decision shows, so either it's continuing a policy that existed before World War II or continues into something else. Is there a way to see it easier on my side? Can you just not read it? Is it like not zoomed in enough? Kind of the best I can do. Okay, so we got two answers for A. Anything else? Lincoln's actions toward Confederate sympathizers during the Civil War, protectorate governments in Latin America after the Spanish-American War, disproportionately high African Americans in the Vietnam War, and the imprisonment of enemy combatants held at Guantanamo Bay. This is tough. I feel like I'm between A and D. Yeah, I'm sort of between those two. So let's see. Half of y'all are with A, half are with D. I bet if we did this, it'll take out B and C. What? All right, so you guys are split. Let's go with D. This is not our day, y'all. So the answer is A. You guys were right. Because Lincoln was okay. So it's you can imprison. I know you can imprison. Basically, the cases are similar because you can imprison people who you feel are a danger to the country. Yeah, look, people were clearly split between the two. Okay, the United States government attempted to redress this decision with. So basically, how did they, after the decision was made, what was like a long-term solution to basically like fix it? Because like the government realizes they are wrong. So how do they fix it? We got 2 Bs, 3 Bs. Yeah, you guys are right. B. Boom, good job. Oh, look, I didn't even know this number. Each surviving internee would get $20,000. How do you value that? You know, like being interned, the like emotional loss, the toll it takes on you, the financial loss from being out of work. How do you value that at $20,000? It's kind of crazy. Would it be useful for you? Do you want to keep doing period 7, or even though we haven't gone over period 8 and 9, do you want to just cut to those? You tell me. You can give me a time period that you want to do practice questions for, and I can pull those up. Like, we can keep doing World War II if you want. Six and 7. I don't want to do 8 and 9. Okay. All right. So we'll just stick with period 7 for now, and then we'll do a little bit from before. Let's do Yalta. Ooh, code talkers. Let's do this one. All right. So we got the Navajo code talkers. So basically they yeah, we can do that. We'll do 8 and 9 after the lesson tomorrow. That's what we'll do. So okay, so Navajo code talkers were, basically it gave this like they could speak their own language and it was hard to crack. So it was easier to like talk in this other language. So the image above best supports which of the following assertions from its era. Americans were opposed to racial integration of the military during World War II. Without the communications pictured above, America would have lost the war in the Pacific. World War II presented challenges to civil liberties. U.S. involvement overseas set the stage for long-term domestic social change. Oh, we got Karen says B. B. D. I love dissenters. All right, so we're between B and D. I want to say B. Ooh, a C. Interesting. U.S. involvement overseas set the stage for long-term domestic social change. I mean, it's hard because you feel like D could be, but I think it's like, I mean, where are these people? They are, doesn't really say. So the problem is best supports. So that means it could be more than one that are technically right. So I'm going to go with B. Let's see what we got. Let's see if we can get this one right. Oh, I'm feeling defeated. All right. The image does not pretend immediate significant domestic social change, but it does hold the promise of change to come. Choice D. What? The image does not support the assertion that Americans were okay, so that's fair. It seems like victory would have been possible without them. Well, good to know. And that it doesn't have anything to do with it did challenge civil liberties, but this image doesn't support that. All right, so the answer here would be D. U.S. involvement overseas set the stage for long-term domestic social change. Interesting. All right. Moving next. Which of the following factors was most responsible for creating the conditions depicted in the photograph above? So what are the conditions here? I mean, they're here in the mass mobilization of American society provided unique opportunities for minorities during World War II. Wartime experiences set the stage for social change on the home front. Military initiatives expanded U.S. power into the Western Hemisphere, and the United States made a popular commitment to advancing democratic ideals. Most responsible for creating the conditions depicted in the photograph above. Mass mobilization of American society. Oh, excuse me. Wartime experiences. This is hard. So, if you had to pick one, which one would you pick? Between B and C? Why not A? I feel like A. Like, why not A? A or B would choose A. All right, let's go with A. Let's see if we're right or wrong. Yeah, all right, we needed a win. That's good. So because they're like mobilizing everyone, the members of the Navajo Nation have this like unique opportunity that they wouldn't have had otherwise. So their value cannot be understated. Some of the other choices are mostly true, but you're looking for the best answer that's supported by that picture. So let's see. There was social change on the home front, but this picture doesn't really support that. All right, cool. C is geographically out of context. Oh, true, because this is in the Pacific and C says Western Hemisphere, so that one's not even correct. Tricky. All right, one more for this one. Which group below from America's past would most likely be critical of the Code Talkers' participation in World War II? African-American Buffalo soldiers who fought the Plain Indian Wars of the late 19th century, Japanese Americans who fought in Italy during the Second World War, tribes of the Great Plains who resisted American Western expansion, African-American troops that were fully integrated in the Korean conflict. Who would be most critical of the Code Talkers? It's a lot of different groups here. Who would be most upset with them, most critical of them? Likely C. A. My gut says C, only because I feel like other Native Americans would be most critical of Native Americans. And that's the only one that talks about Native Americans. Like, I feel like I can't imagine, the people who were pushed off their land and had to deal with Americans being stupid would have been very happy about other Native Americans helping them fight a war. Dope. Yeah, so these other groups would have kind of understood that that was a unique opportunity, right? That they would have wanted to be that. Can't be D or A. Yeah. Oh, excuse me. Okay. All right, let's go to a different section in this time period. Period 7. Yeah, I know Kahoot. You want to play Kahoot right now? There's only 5 of you guys here. I should have a Kahoot session this week. I could probably do that. You want to play right now? We want to keep doing this. This is fun. All right, you like doing this? Great. Let's do migrations. You know what? I could probably do a big Kahoot session on Tuesday, maybe. Something I could do. All right, let's look at this. Continuities of immigration. So here's immigration in the U.S., 1860 to 1920. So obviously it's just always increasing. The information in the graph. You played Kahoot for 3 days straight. Dang. Yeah, we could play. We could play around. All right, the information in the graph above most directly reflects which of the following continuities in the United States history. So we always see, so in this graph, we're seeing increase in immigration. So which of the following in the graph most directly reflects which of the following statements? So the graph is just sort of increasing upward. Boom, boom, boom. So which of these is true? Which does that graph support? Well, all of these statements are true, but which does the graph actually support? C. Yeah, I'm going to go C. Yeah. Yeah, so they're all true, but the graph, you wouldn't necessarily know from this graph how people feel about immigrants. You just know that there's always immigrants coming in. Next. Which of the following was most likely a significant cause of the trend? So the trend is increased immigration. So which is a cause of increased immigration? Economic prosperity in Europe, liberal immigration policies in the United States, political corruption in the United States that subverted immigration rules, corporate recruitment of immigrant labor overseas. This is hard. B. Most significantly a cause of the trend depicted. D. B or D? You think B? All right, we got 3 B's. So let's go with B's. I'm not sure. Good job. So in the time period in the graph, there's virtually no restrictions on immigration, except for Chinese Exclusion Act. And it's not until after. So okay, that makes sense. So choice A is wrong because if Europe was economically prosperous, people wouldn't leave. Choice D, it doesn't actually explain why choice D is wrong. It's interesting. Okay. What future political trend was the most direct result of the information in the graph? So what's a trend after the fact? Continued increases in immigration, supported by lax immigration laws, congressional act to limit immigration from Southern and Eastern Europe, laws restricting the voting rights of new immigrants, calls to end illegal immigration in the decade following World War I. So first, it has to come after 1920 because it's after the graph. So you can rule out D because that's before. And yeah, you guys are remembering correctly. The quota acts. I would go with B. Good. So you like choice A is kind of plausible. Continued increases in the U.S., except that it says lax immigration. And it doesn't. Yeah, okay. All right, let's pick another topic. These are all dumb. Let's pick another one. All right. Rise of and debates over national culture. Okay. Ooh, Birth of a Nation. This stuff is so messed up. Theatrical poster of the Birth of a Nation. So here's the movie. Founded on Thomas Dixon's The Klansman. Oof. The point of view expressed by the image above most directly reflects which of the following continuities in United States history? So, point of view expressed in the image above. Is it fear of abusive federal power, calls for greater state sovereignty, fear of integrating immigrants into American society, restriction of civil liberties during times of crisis? All right, so what's the continuity? You guys are all over the place. D, B, C. All right, so let's see. Calls for greater state. Wasn't Birth of a Nation supporting the KKK? Yes. Right. So this is the KKK. It's all about that. Okay, so you think it's D based on that. Restriction of civil liberties during times of crises. Fear of. So the only thing is, I don't think this is really about immigrants. Most directly reflects which of the following continuities in United States history. Ooh, this is brutal. Okay, I'm gonna go with. I kind of feel like it's B, but I'll go with you guys. You said D. Ooh, C is correct. Wow, really? Okay, so the rise of this is good. The rise of the Klan in this time period is in part because of the fear of immigrants, because the people coming in from like Southern and Eastern Europe tend to be darker skin. So the fear of immigrants was nothing new. Interesting. All right, good to know. The resurgence of the KKK in the 1920s can best be seen as an example of increasing cultural and political conflicts caused by changing demographics, social tensions created by the wartime patriotism of World War I, conflict between urban and rural Americans, white reaction to the Harlem Renaissance. D, A, A, D, A. All right. I'm going to go with A. Let's learn. Boom. Good job. So, yeah. So A is kind of telling us what we learned in the last one, right? So we've got changing demographics because of migration and immigration. So because of that, they are tapping into the fears of Americans across regional divides. It doesn't explain here why the other ones. The Harlem Renaissance was after, yeah. The Harlem Renaissance is pretty much the 1920s and 30s, so that would be later. This movie was before, or I guess it's during World War One, so I guess it could have been B, but it's not. All right, teaching evolution. Here is the Anti-Evolution League. The conflict. Hell in the high school. What? All right, so this is the Scopes trial. They don't want evolution to be taught. So the ideas expressed in the image above most directly reflect political controversies over fundamentalism and modernism, federal policies to standardize education, American traditions of secular humanism, federal mandates to favor science over religion. Okay, so you guys are saying A, I agree, submit. Good job. Yeah, so it's pretty much just the issue between them. So Scopes was fined $100 after the end of the day, but the conflict continued. And even now, teaching evolution is controversial, less so, but still. The activities shown in the image most clearly show the influence of which of the following: the tradition of an American identity centered on religious belief, the wall of separation between church and state advocated by Thomas Jefferson, the influence of Enlightenment ideals of discovery through science, or the power of freedom of assembly to address the grievances of angry citizenry. Interesting. So you guys are all saying A. But like, why not D, right? Because they're protesting, right? All right. I mean, I'll go with A. I don't know. Part of me feels like, why not D? All right. Good job. Good thing you guys are taking the test and not me. Didn't Christianity have an influence in all this? Yeah, it does. Yeah, and like A sounds correct. It's not like A sounds incorrect to me. But I just feel like this image is showing the influence. This is the key word here. The influence. Because I was just thinking like that's what they're protesting. I don't know why this one doesn't explain all of them. Those protesting in the photo would agree that they had a right to a peaceably assemble, but it is not the greatest reason they are assembled here. Okay, so, all right, so just be clear on the question. Read the question carefully. Which of the following Supreme Court decisions has the most in common with the issues shown in the image above? So which of these, this is really hard. don't quit. I'm going to be honest, I've never heard of any of these. So you basically have to pick the one that is most similar. C, A, B, skip. Don't skip any. If you ever come across a question like this that you're like, I have no clue, don't skip it, because if you skip it, you get it wrong. Just pick one. So, I don't know. Someone said lemon. We'll go with lemon. All right, let's learn some stuff. So Engel versus Vital was prayer in school. Yeah, good job. So basically it demonstrated that religion is a very important aspect of American identity, even if no one is quite certain what this should look like or what form it should take. Okay, so basically this one made prayers in school unconstitutional. Oh man, you knew it, and here I was not listening to you. Dang, you should have been shouting from the rooftops. Like, I know this one. All right, so Reynolds versus United States was religious freedom case involving polygamy. Because it has no ties to education, this does not represent the best answer. Lemon versus Kurtzman is about religion. It establishes the Lemon test, which is basically how public funds could be used to support private schools. So basically it says that it's not about hindering or advancing religion. This is really hard. This is like unnecessarily hard. And the last one was religious freedom. No, I've never heard of these ones. So I'm pretty sure you can get a 5 on the exam and never know those. That was really hard. All right, let's go back. Let's pick another topic. Yeah, I feel like, don't worry. Yeah, let's do period 6. All right. Responses, economic. The rise of industrial capitalism or Gilded Age? You choose. Capitalism or Gilded Age? Gilded, both. All right, let's choose this one first. All right, patronage. Okay, this one looks good. This is the first inaugural address of President Hayes. So let me read to you a little. I ask the attention of the public to the paramount necessity of reform in our civil service, a reform not merely as to certain abuses and practices of so-called patronage, which have come to have the sanction of usage in the several departments of our government, but a change in the system of appointment itself, a reform that shall be thorough, radical, and complete, a return to their principles and practices of the founders of government. They neither expected nor desired from public officers any partisan service. They meant that the public officers should owe their whole service to the government and to the people. So basically, they held that appointments to office were not to be made nor expected merely as rewards for partisan services. Okay, so which of the following developments would be most consistent with the beliefs expressed in the excerpt? Formation of a spoils system, term limits for the presidency, formation of a civil service system, formation of campaign finance reform. Yeah, I'm going to learn from my mistakes and agree with SE this time. Good job. Yep, so this is all about the problems of the spoils system. So it's like rewarding political supporters with government jobs, which, by the way, is kind of what Trump is doing. Interesting. What federal law was created to remedy the problems? Okay, so which of these laws overturned the spoils system? A. Yeah, you guys are right. Okay, Pendleton. All right, let's do a couple more. The problems with the patronage system were clearly shown through what later tragic event? Problems with patronage. C, A. I'm gonna go with C. Woo. Okay, so the guy that killed Garfield, I think he was like supposed to get a job, and then he didn't, and that was like the final straw for him. Haymarket is more about the anarchists and labor activists that existed. Whoa. Okay, let's look for another. Oh my god, these ones look hard. All right. Carnegie. Okay, this is Carnegie. It's called Wealth. It's all about the duty of man. The duty of wealthy men, right, is to set an example, to provide moderately for the wants of those who are dependent on him, and to, this is basically like the gospel. Yeah, this is the gospel of wealth. This is that wealthy men should benefit their community. Vertical integration. Ford isn't necessarily vertical or horizontal. I'm not really sure which one Ford is, but the vertical integration is Carnegie. Yep. Okay. Horizontal is Rockefeller. So, okay, so the excerpt above likely served as a response to. So, why would Carnegie write this about the gospel of wealth in 1889? The widening gap between rich and poor at the close of the 19th century, widespread dissatisfaction with corporate greed of the Gilded Age, the emergence of philosophies such as social Darwinism, growing discontent among the working class. So 1889, widespread dissatisfaction. I mean, yeah, this one's tough. So let's eliminate. So we've got, I mean, this is true in this time. This is, I mean, that's the thing, is a lot of them are like true. Growing discontent among the working classes. Let's go with A. Most of you said A. Woohoo! So basically, it's just that more people in this time period have the gap between rich and poor is widening, and this is a method in which to fix it. There was not yet widespread public dissatisfaction with corporate greed. All right. Which of the following historical developments most directly precipitated the conditions leading to the argument in the passage above? So basically, what happened right before that would have led to this? The emergence of large corporate domination of the American economy, a surge of immigration, the trust busting of the Progressive Age, or market instability during the Gilded Age. So what would have led him to do this? What is the immediate, the most direct effect, most direct cause? All right, so we say A. Let's go with A. Homestead strike. Woohoo! Yep, so we've got large corporations like this, and he's sort of trying to figure out what do we do with all this money. Good. Late 19th century critics of ideology expressed in the quote above would most likely argue that the tax structure of the United States at the time made it difficult to engage in charitable activities. Wait, 19th century critics of ideology. So who people against him, the gospel wealth, would have said that the tax structure makes it too hard to give to charity. The poor were the responsibility of the government, so that even if you're wealthy, it's not your problem. The government should deal with it. American businessmen of the Gilded Age had won their struggle, and so they shouldn't be responsible for those less fit in society. Damn. If the poor worked as hard as the rich, there would be no poverty. Yeah, let's go with D. So there was no tax. So choice A wasn't about tax. There was no income tax. Choice B, the poor during the Gilded Age, yeah, so it wasn't really that. Wait, why can't we eliminate D? During the Gilded Age, wages were repressed by the excess supply of cheap labor. So no matter how hard the poor worked, it was still difficult to get ahead. Oh, okay. So C is more social Darwinism, because C is saying the people who are wealthy because they're more fit. They're better humans. So if you aren't wealthy, it's because you're unfit and therefore shouldn't be helped. What a mess. The last part of D is wrong. Yeah, well, tripped us up though. All right, so let's do one more and then we'll break. Let's look for, let's do women's suffrage. The hardest ones. Some of these tend to be hard though. We want to do interstate commerce? Nah. We want to do interstate commerce? All right, fine. Fine. The term railroad, as used in this act, shall include all bridges, ferries, or operated in connection with any railroad. All charges made for service. So basically, Interstate Commerce Act just means that the government will handle the... No, not the government. An unreasonable charge for such service is prohibited and declared to be unlawful. It just like regulates commerce that's going between the states. Okay, so the law above impacted the nation in which of the following ways? The law effectively regulated the railroads. The decision of the Supreme Court dictated changes in the law to make it effective. Like many of the reform efforts of the government during the late 1800s, it lacked the power to be enforced. Democrats enforced the law strictly while Republicans weakened the law. Let's look at it again. All charges made for any service rendered or to be rendered or storage shall be reasonable and just, and every unjust and unreasonable charge for such service is prohibited and declared unlawful. So you guys are saying C. It was weak at the beginning, I remember. I don't remember where some of these letters started from before. C. All right, let's go with C. All right. So C is correct. It lacked the power to be enforced. What caused the creation of this law? Congress authorized the creation of the Transcontinental Railroad. Industries appealed to the federal government to regulate the railroads. Railroads suffered economic decline due to new competition from other sources of transportation. The Supreme Court overturned state laws regulating railroads. So what caused the creation of this law? B, maybe D. The Supreme Court overturned state laws regulating railroads. Industries appealed to the federal government to regulate the railroads. I don't know, y'all. Let's go with B. Oof. What was the answer? Oh, the answer was D. All right. Railroad practices hurt farmers in the West in the late 1800s. The railroads overcharged the farmers but gave rebates to big businesses that used the railroads more. The Grange movement lobbied for laws in states such as Illinois to regulate railroad rates. Despite its arguments of the railroad company, the Supreme Court upheld the laws in the case Munn versus Illinois. However, in the case Wabash versus Illinois, the Supreme Court overturned the Granger laws, asserting that states could not regulate railroads. So the Supreme Court overturned state laws. All right, there you go. I know we're doing a lot of court cases. So like you're seeing, I think the court cases are all, they're not listed. A lot of them are not listed in the key concept. So it's hard to tell you that you have to. I think in a lot of ways, these questions are harder than what you're actually going to see on the test. Yeah, exactly. I agree with you, Jasper. It's like they're good for evidence, but like, eh. Which of the following provides another example of Congress's weakness in regulating big business during this period? So, what's another example of the government not being able to regulate something? All right, so we have one for D. D, yes, I agree. D, I also agree. Boom. Government made efforts to reform society, but they couldn't actually handle the Sherman Antitrust Act. It's not until Teddy Roosevelt uses it. All right, guys, that is it. So, all right, I'm going to close this. And, all right, so basically governments were weak in the 1800s, basically. All right, so tomorrow I will actually do period 8 and 9. I totally dropped the ball on that. I've actually been like trying to work on some other stuff today that will be awesome for you guys later. But quick question. In this week, so obviously I'm going to be live every night this week, at 8 p.m. Do you guys have any requests of things that you want me to do? Some ideas that I was thinking about, like, okay, so tomorrow I'll go over the last bit. But I was thinking about like, basically like creating a chart that is like all the themes and then time periods and kind of filling that stuff out together, trying to like remember all these terms and place them in the right spots, kind of creating a timeline together. That's one idea. Another idea is writing an essay together. We can play a Kahoot one night. More SAQ, DBQ, LEQ. Okay, good to know. I'm thinking maybe a Kahoot on Tuesday could be cool. Yeah, Essie's getting a 5. You're all going to get 5s. You guys are really smart. I have high hopes for everyone. Okay. All right. So I will see you guys tomorrow at 8. All right. You totally got this. So, good luck studying today. And last minute concepts / topics you might have forgotten. Well, you guys have to let me know what those are. So if there's any other topics or stuff that you're like, oh, wait, what is that? Like, just kind of start making a list and you can send them to me. Okay. All right. I'm out. See you guys later. Until tomorrow.